What's up? This is Brandon London, and you're listening to the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. You hear that? The Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. Let's go, Giants.
Fans, welcome back to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. This week we are, or just about are, 67% British, 33% Irish, but absolutely still 100% Giants. As you can see, our Irish friend Kev is just getting set up after having a nightmare getting home from work. There he is. Oi, oi, how are you doing? Not set up yet. We'll get back to you, Kev. Shane's off due to work this week. Kev's rushed in and got the train back in record time and managed to get... You're a bit stressed there, Kev, you right?
Mate, I am so under pressure. I feel under pressure like to get here on time. These live shows are a killer, I'm telling you.
Man, they absolutely are. But you've made it. That's the main thing. And he's back from Canada and he's here to look at our 2023 draft class. We're taking a deep dive in this week and looking at each player in a bit more depth and some of the undrafted free agents as well. But Shane's not here, and like I said, he's got work commitments, so he can't join us this evening. Plus, with the schedule release coming tomorrow evening, we'll bring you the latest updates as the international series and a small selection of primetime games were revealed today, which is quite exciting for us Giants fans. Maybe excited? Don't know. We'll get onto it. Anyway, welcome back, Kev, from your holidays, and lads, how you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Glad to be back. I was gutted to miss the pod last week with all the excitement and everything, but obviously when you have holiday booked, you can't really get out of it, and we were out and about doing so much, so I couldn't get live on. But yeah, not good to be back. Excited about the draft, excited about the off season. Lovely seeing your beautiful faces, and I'm sorry to see Craig is a bit up in the cast there, up in the old sling there. Are you okay, mate?
Yeah, so Giants blue. I don't know if the hospital knew, but Giants blue. So, props to hospital. Yeah, I would love to turn around and say that I injured myself prepping for the Big Blue UK and Ireland combine that seems to be hot on the press at the moment.
It's gathering pace, isn't it?
It is gathering pace. But just to show you what happens when you become older, I decided to kind of dislocate my collarbone by picking up a pen.
Wow.
It's up there. It's up
it
there.
Is definitely up there. Yeah.
Tell us you're old without telling us you're old, right?
Yeah, tell me about it.
Mate, that's unbelievable. Like, just picking up a pen off a desk. And it wasn't even picking up with your left hand either. It was picking up with your right hand. So,
yeah, an awkward
turn. I mean, your guess is as good as mine how you managed to do that.
But hey, he was in the hospital yesterday, and here he is tonight producing the mighty Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast for us.
That's it, mate. Dedication.
Got to do what you got to do.
That's it. Now I'm sure Kev is chomping at the bit to dive into our draft class, but that's coming up very, very shortly. But first off, we are going to take a look at the latest news. Starting off with the news that broke last week while we were on air, that the team signed defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence to a new contract, which was very exciting for us, making him one of the highest paid D linemen in the league, the 17th overall pick in 2019 draft, had his breakout year in 2022, and was arguably the best person on the roster, best player on the roster last year. As reported by Ian Rappaport, Sexy Dexy signed a 4-year, $90 million extension with $60 million of that guaranteed. The new deal also lowers his cap hit for this season from 12.4 mil to 6.65, which is huge relief and great news for us because it gives us plenty of breathing room to sign up the rookie class as well. His cap hit for the following years after that, so 2024 is just shy of 22 million. 25 is around the same. 2026, 24.4, and 2027, 26.4. But after 25, there's no guaranteed money owed to him, so we could potentially get out the deal at that point. And as our resident expert, Kev, Mr. Cap King, you weren't with us last week when the news broke, but what do you make of the deal, mate?
Yeah, it's a fantastic deal. I mean, I thought that the way agents are, not Dexter himself, but the way agents are, they want to push to set the bar. They want to be like to set the market. They want to be like, you know, I want to be the highest player. The next guy is always the biggest contract. Do you know what I mean? That kind of goes with a lot of positions, not just the QB market, but we've seen the way the defensive tackle market has sort of exploded a wee bit in this offseason. So like, I'm kind of glad he came in. You know, pretty much the Pian contract. I mean, the D tackle for Washington, paying his agents the same as Dexter Lawrence's agents, and it's pretty much the same deal as that. It's fantastic as well to get a bit of cap relief this year. I mean, we get about $6 million cap relief this year, and that's kind of spread over the life of the deal. And it basically allows us to sign our rookie contracts, and also it gives us a little bit of wiggle room for in-season moves. So I think at the moment we've got about 5 or 6 million in cap space. Some of the rookies are signed, not all, but we only need 2.7, I think it is, to get them under the cap this year. Zimenez's deal hasn't been announced yet, so we don't quite know what that is, but I wouldn't imagine that being much more than vet minimum. So I think it's definitely got us in a good position. Now we don't need to look at Leo Williams' contract. You know, not the worst thing, but I really didn't want to add more void years on. He's already got a void year next year for like 4 or 5 million. So didn't really want to do any of that. And obviously, I think Williams and Adoree, those contracts could have been extended, but I think Joe Sheehan and Brian Dable want them to play out this year and improve it deals, play out their last year on prove it deals to try and get the best out of them. But I just think like it's a deal all around. You know, he's a Gettleman first round pick signed along with Daniel Jones, signed to a nice big extension. But he's proven it this year. You know, he's gradually got better and better. And we've seen under the Wick Martindale system him being one of the best D tackles in the league. So I think to tie him up long term was a massive, massive thing.
Yeah, definitely, man. Craig, what did you make of it after the details came out?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it last week, and the fact that it was a key signing to make, and we knew that it would give us some cap relief, and it, you know, as Kev said, it means now we don't have to look at that Adoree Jackson or Leo restructures, push money into the future, anything like that. Gives us that flexibility that we need. Now, that's not to say that it might not happen in season with injuries or, you know, come cut day, there could be a couple of players out there that we think, hey, here we go, we could, you know, float a little bit here. But on the surface of the deal and the player, if you're not over the moon, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, he fully deserved the contract, and the fact that, like we said, it freed up a bit of space this year, and it's a win-win, really. It's a win-win for the team. You know, Shane and Dave's have, well, more so Shane, I suppose. He's worked his magic with the deal, and it's worked out for Dexter as well, and he's signed up for the next 4 years. And I think one of the, I mean, we've notoriously been bad at re-signing first-round draft picks, or we've just re-signed 2 in the space of a matter of weeks, with obviously Dan Jones having his new deal as well. So it's great to see the longevity. It's great to see them getting the new deal and staying with the team where they both deserve to be as well, where they both belong. So yeah, I'm mega happy with it, and I'm glad in like Shane said last week. You know, it's jersey on the list. I think it's 97 is it's definitely on the list of jerseys I'll be getting now, especially now he's re-signed his deal. So glad to have him back on the team. He's a great character. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing what he can do over the next 4 years. Evening, Steve. Training is going fantastically. I've probably done. I've done no training whatsoever. I mean, we will start training at some point, no doubt. Maybe a couple of days before, just to limber up a little bit. But the combine's coming soon, mate. Don't worry about that.
I mean, I see Craig's on injured reserve at the moment, so he wouldn't be able to partake in anything.
No excuse.
But how funny would it be if we actually met up for the draft again next year, and actually during the day we did some sort of combine events or something and posted them on socials? It would be embarrassing, but it might be quite funny.
It would be ridiculously embarrassing, but it'd be hilarious. It'd be hilarious at the same time, mate. All you would need beer would keep you going. Well, the more beers, the less we would care.
I mean, can you get like a 40 time for a ping pong throw or something like that? A beer pong throw.
Yeah, maybe we'll come up with some events for ourselves. You know, rather than the 40-yard dash, we'll do a 40-yard like ping pong or something. Yeah. We'll come up with something.
4 beer chug.
Mate, there you go. 4 beer chug. I mean, you'll drink us all under the table, Kev, no doubt. But
Oh.
4-beer chug, 4-beer chug, I like that. Anyway, moving on. As reported earlier today, the Giants will be on the road at the Link to take on divisional rivals and Super Bowl 57, losing Philadelphia Eagles on Christmas Day. Merry Christmas to us all. Scheduled for 9:30 p.m. UK time. It does mean we run the risk of having our Christmas spoiled, though, unfortunately. But we will always back Big Blue against the Dirty Birds. And as it's so late in the season, hopefully it could have playoff and divisional implications. So you never know. Stranger things have happened. Is football a part of your Christmas Day schedule, lads?
Well, I mean, it's always been traditionally NBA having games on Christmas Day. It hasn't really been a traditionally NFL thing. I mean, I quite like the idea. I mean, like, you know, obviously doing all the family stuff during the day, doing the presents for the kids, seeing the family, but then being able to nestle down of an evening around 9 o'clock, get another cold beer in your hand, and watch a bit of football just to see out the day. I think I quite like it, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think it's more difficult to watch it because it's less acceptable. Not acceptable. It's less recognised over here, isn't it? The NFL. So from our perspective, we'd be like, yeah, it's absolutely fine. And then you float it to the parents or the parents-in-law, and then they're like, for Christmas Day?
What are you doing? Watching sport on Christmas? How very dare you?
Exactly.
I mean, you kind of only get away with it if it's your house.
Yeah, exactly.
The beautiful thing, obviously, it's 9:30 in the evening, so by that point in time, everyone might be home and on their settee and in their PJs. But the only problem is you're going to be in a food coma by that point. By that point in the day, so you know, I mean, it's not traditionally part of my Christmas Day, but the fact the Giants are playing on Christmas, I'm not going to miss it. If it means me watching the game by myself, so be it. There's more important things sometimes, and football falls into that category. So, yeah, we'll be watching that game. Well, I'll be watching that game for sure, anyway. And we also had the 5 international series games that were announced today as well. 3 games in London, which we're expecting, and 2 in Germany for the first time. So they're both in Frankfurt, aren't they? So rather than Munich like they had last year, they've gone to Frankfurt this year, which is different. The Jags return again. Their customary home game at Wembley on October the 1st against the Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are coming over to Wembley. And they're staying for 2 weeks in a row because then they're the road team against the Buffalo Bills the week after at Tottenham Stadium, aren't they? On the 8th of October. And then finally on the 15th, the Titans play host to Lamar Jackson and his Ravens at Tottenham Stadium. Obviously for us, nothing will top last year. But 2 okay games. Falcons, Jags at Wembley. Not too bothered about that. The focus then switches to Frankfurt, Germany, like I said, in November, with games taking place on consecutive weekends of the 5th and the 12th. With the Super Bowl 57 winning Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Dolphins in Game 1 on the 5th, and then the following week, what used to be the Brady Manning Bowl, the Colts against the Patriots, which is sort of mid to late 2000s and into the 2010s, was always a big game, obviously, when Brady and Manning were around, coming on the 12th of November in Frankfurt. So any of the games really stand out for you both?
Well, actually, I think they're all quite good games, to be fair. I mean, it'll be very interesting to see the fans sort of turning up for this for these games. Sorry, what I'm trying to say is, like, it'd be interesting to see with the Jaguars, because the Jaguars, me and my mates always treated the Jaguars game at Wembley as a bit of like our day out. You weren't going to see good football. It was just a day out with the lads to watch football together. Like, yeah, exactly, a little bit like that. And the other games seemed to be the better matchups, and it was like, you were there to actually really watch the football. Now, the Jags are actually starting to be a really good team. They made the playoffs last season. Trevor Lawrence is starting to show why he was first overall pick. They've made some really good moves, and they look like they're moving in the right direction. But it will be interesting to see having 2 games in 2 weeks. Now, I think it's a good move by them because they get to stay over here, acclimatize, and really sort of, and also embed themselves over here. But it will also be seeing the fans. Will the fans turn up? The Jaguars are here 1 week in Wembley and then the next week in Tottenham. And a lot of people who are Jags fans coming from all over Europe go to the Wembley game. are those fans going to go to both games? Or is there enough Jaguars fans to go, I'm going to go to both games, as opposed to, right, I'm going to Wembley game, and then the other game at Tottenham is two different teams completely. So it's kind of like a strange one to see. You're going from having 4 fan bases over 2 weeks to 3 fan bases over 2 weeks. So we'll be interested to see, like, how the ticket sales are and what the atmosphere is like, and what, to see if we really have the thirst for it over here.
Yeah, I'm quite interested in the 2 German ones, to be honest. I think they've really lucked out with what they've selected. I mean, the Patriots are the most supported team in Germany from an NFL standpoint, so that made perfect sense for them. And the Colts aren't the same as they were. It's not going to have the same pull as it once has. I mean, we're going to guess that it's Anthony Richardson who's going to be quarterback of the Colts.
Precisely.
And Mac Jones. I mean, Anthony Richardson versus Mac Jones is probably more of a pull than, what was it? Probably Nick Foles versus Mac Jones. I can't imagine that would have been much of a pull last year.
Or Nick Foles against Bailey Zappi.
Oh yeah, but if you flip to the other one, I think Kansas versus Miami is a tasty one. Tyreek Hill,
sneakily good game, isn't it?
Tyreek Hill gets to go back to Kansas the first time they're going to be playing each other.
Champions as well, Super Bowl champions.
Super Bowl champions. If Tua's fit and stays healthy for the season, that Dolphins team have got to be a contender at least. They've got a fantastic lineup. Both on both sides of the ball. I think that's probably the standout game across all of it. So Germany are really going to luck out with that, and obviously in Frankfurt this time rather than Munich as well. So a little bit of a different flavour to it.
Yeah, and it's a more central location. Obviously, Munich's right down in the south, in Bavaria, whereas Munich was obviously more central. So Frankfurt's more central, should I say? But it's a little bit frustrating, though. Obviously, it's great that Germany are getting the games. Don't get me wrong. I think it's fantastic that the NFL is branching out into Europe even more. We all know the football fan base in Germany is really big. Obviously, Big Blue Germany come over to us last year, but the level of the sort of caliber of games that they're getting in Germany is really quite impressive. When the IS series started here back in 2007, the first sort of few games we got, the sort of first 5 years or so, when we were getting just one game a year, I think we had Brady and the Patriots come over. I think it was year 2, maybe. Was it 2008? No, that was the Saints Chargers 2008, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that was a really high scoring game. We had Brady come over and play against the Bucks, but then after that it sort of tailed off a bit in terms of the caliber of teams coming over. It was almost like a case of you sometimes looked at the Wembley games and gone, oh, well, I'm not really interested in that. So it's a bit frustrating that they're getting maybe the better caliber games, and they had a really good game last year, but at the same time, like I said, I'm all for the NFL going to Germany. I love Germany. I think it's a fantastic country. And I really want to go to one of the games in Germany, because looking at the pictures from the game last year and seeing like the pre-match sort of build up and the atmosphere in the stadium as well was unbelievable, was electric. So it'd be really awesome to be able to go to such a game in Germany. But those tickets are going to be in really high demand, and they're going to go for stupid money on the resale market as well. So it might not be possible, but all in all, I think the schedule across all 5 games is pretty decent. The Bills coming here is good because obviously they're a big powerhouse in the AFC. And it'll be interesting, like you said, with Kev, with the Jags, for them being here for 2 weeks in a row. It's almost like they're sort of testing the waters a little bit more in terms of bringing a franchise here. Would it work? Like you said, the same fan base, would they be attracted 2 weeks in a row? Because there's times during the season where you could have 2-3 home games in a row as a team. So it's sort of testing the waters a little bit more to see, will the fans be drawn in 2 weeks in a row, like you said, or would they sort of pick one of the 2 games? Trust me, if it was the Giants coming 2 weeks in a row, mate, I'd be at both games, no question about it. I wouldn't care about the cost. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think there's some, the one game that really sort of doesn't stand out too much for me is the Wembley game, the Jags Falcons. But that's not to say that, like I said, the Jags are a decent team. Trevor Lawrence is showing why he was the number 1 overall pick, and I think it's an intriguing game. So yeah, obviously it's a good excuse for us to meet up and have a few beers and everything like that. So I'm sure there'll be one of the games, or at least one of the weekends, that we'll all meet up at some point during October and watch the Giants game in a pub somewhere in London, no doubt.
It will be interesting to see if any Jags fans will forego the Wembley game to go to the Spurs stadium, because they've always done Wembley, haven't they? But now, they get to go to see the Spurs stadium.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, don't get me wrong, Wembley's like our national stadium and whatever, but just Tottenham Stadium is absolutely stunning. It's just a shame. It's no offense, but it's a shame it's in Tottenham. It really is. The surrounding area around the stadium isn't great. Let's put it that way. But the stadium itself, once you're inside, is absolutely amazing, and the facilities they've got are fantastic. They obviously the fact that they've got their own brewery there is brilliant as well. So it's just a shame about the prices of the food and drink there, but you kind of expect that in sports stadiums nowadays. And I see that comment there from Shane. Evening, mate. And the training absolutely isn't going at all. So yeah, it's next when the closer we get, the more I might decide to put in a little bit of effort. But at the moment, the only exercise I'm doing is this. That's about it, I think. Anyway, moving on. Last week, Shane gave us his initial thoughts on our 2023 draft class, and this week it's over to you, Kev. It's your turn to voice your opinions and also take a bit of a deeper dive into each player selected by us over the course of draft weekend. With Trader Joe giving away 4 of our original 11 draft picks in pre-draft and draft day trades, we're left with 7 in total over the 3 days of the weekend. So Kev ran 1 pick 24, as it turned out to be. Deontay Banks. What did you make of it?
Yeah, so I won't go into too much. I won't go into the little stats and stuff like that, because you boys all done fantastic last week with the stats and giving the picture of how the players done. But first, I'll talk about the 2 trades. Well, I'll talk about the 2 trades when the players come up. So the first trade, moving up from 25 to 24, and everyone knows we give up the 5th round pick and the 7th round pick. Now, having a look at the draft chart, trade charts and stuff like that, and what was done in the past, to move up one spot, the 5th round pick was fair. The 5th round pick to move up that one spot from 25 to 4 was fair, and the 7th, I think, was just a sweetener. It was just sort of we had 3 7th round picks, so we were very, very willing to part with that. Was the big deal to us. I think it was a very good move. There was 3 teams on the phone to the Jags trying to move up to that pick. So we decided, we want this player. 4 wide receivers went. The 4 wide receivers I had on my top 5 all went between 20 and 23. Deontay Banks was a player that they really wanted. I think they would have been happy with one of the 4 wide receivers, but I do believe they really, really wanted Deontay Banks. You've seen Wink's reaction to the pick. So I was just made up, because I had him going between 11 and 20. He was like the sort of 3rd, 4th QB for a quarterback for me on my board, along with Joey Porter Jr. He's that big sort of he's physically athletic. He's got elite traits. He does. If he does get beat by a man, he's got the speed to recover. He can run with any wide receiver. And the good thing as well, even in press, he actually he bullies a lot of wide receivers on the ball, on the line of scrimmage. He has got a lot. He's got all the tools as well. He's not the finished article by any means, but I do believe he can come in and be cornerback 2 next to Adoree Jackson and develop into cornerback 1. He's a couple of things that that he can improve on. Sometimes he can be. It sounds really silly, but he can be too fast. So when he's running with players, he's actually ahead of them, and players on comebacks and hitches and stuff like that can kind of leave a little bit of space between them. So he needs to sort of clean that up a little bit. And he's when he's in off man coverage, he sort of just gives up a little bit too much space. He just needs to be a little bit tighter. But when he's on man coverage and he's up in the face and on press, he's one of the best in this draft. And he's actually a bit better in zone than people give him credit for. When you actually watch him play in zones, his right recognition, I think, is very, very good. So I think he's a top caliber cornerback. It was actually a steal to get him where we got him. Again, you boys talked about him, Mark and Marvin Harrison last year at Ohio State. as Shane rightly said, he will be a top 5 pick next year. Now, he only had 5 receptions for 68 yards and no touchdowns. So, he can hang with the best of them. And I think he's got the right sort of temperament. He doesn't seem flashy and stuff like that. His interviews are quite funny. He's just sort of like, just all about ball, all about business. Doesn't give any elaborate answers, or he doesn't seem flashy. He just wants to come in and do the business. Again, it can be a little bit grabby in some of the routes. He just needs to clean up a bit, but I think in the NFL, that can be taught. That can be, coached out, but also you kind of know what you can get away with, and you will learn what you can and cannot get away with in the league. So overall, I put the grade there. I'd give that an A. I think that's a home run pick. It's a massive need, and need meets value, as this draft will talk about. So yeah, it was a fantastic pick.
I love that. Can be a little bit grabby. I get fully, obviously, completely get what you mean, though. But when it comes to obviously like defensive back, sometimes they do get a bit grabby, and we know full well like Darnay Holmes likes to get a bit grabby. So we hope that Wink can potentially coach him and train him and show him that that's not the way to go, and we don't need any more of that in the team we've already got. So yeah, like we spoke about it last week, I love the pick, and I think it's great. And the fact you graded it as an A, I mean, we're same across the board. We think the same.
With the grabbiness as well. Sorry, Craig, just quickly. The grabbiness, like when Sauce Gardner came out, I'm not saying the same player, but when he came out, he was very grabby in college, and he sort of learned throughout this season what you can and can't get away with. And I think he's intelligent enough, Deontay Banks, to be able to learn that as well.
It's that's what we said last week. I'm pretty sure we mentioned it last week, and Kev will definitely agree with us. The tennis balls will be out, won't they, in camp? They'll be sellotaped to the hands, and yeah, and that's it. Seems stupid when you think about it, like, oh, they're sellotaping tennis balls to the hands, but it just takes that opportunity away and forces you to change your game up. And there's another player that I'm sure Kev will get onto in a minute, who potentially might have to change his style of what he does to fit the pros better than what he used to do in college. So there's always going to be room for improvement going forward, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing. This last weekend with the mini camps and going forward until the season opener.
And as we all know, no rookie is a finished article. No rookie, no matter how good you are. I mean, like the only player that came out of college that I thought was as close to the finished article as you can get was Andrew Luck when he came out. Was that 10, 12 years ago? But no rookies are finished article. They only work on.
Yeah, and I mean, when Luck came into everyone knew for as soon as the season was over, Andrew Luck was going number 1 to the Colts, just because of how unbelievably good and how unbelievably talented he was, and he was almost the polished, finished article. He just had a few little things here and there to change up. But then he goes and retires and leaves Indy high and dry, and is like they've still not recovered since. And now they've got Richardson on board. Hopefully he could be their guy moving forward for the next few years. But yeah,
just a quick note on Andrew Luck. Actually, I found this out there last week. The Panthers the year before tried to convince him to come out in the draft the year before. He would have been number 1 overall pick the year before had he came out. But he didn't. He decided to stay in college because that's what he enjoyed. He enjoyed learning. He enjoyed studying. He enjoyed, wanting to get his degree from Stanford, which is a highly prestigious school. And then obviously the Panthers went with Cam Newton that year.
I thought you were going to mention about the potential Commanders getting their wrists slapped over potential tapping up last year.
That was so weird. When I heard that this week, I couldn't believe that. It's such a Commanders move or a Washington move. Yeah, but that doesn't surprise you about Washington, really, does it? Let's face it. Cool. All right. Pick round 2, pick 57. John Michael Schmidt, center from Minnesota. Again, we spoke about it last week. Will, you've heard our thoughts, Kev. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so he's a big boy, isn't he? He's like an older prospect, 24 coming out, 6'4", 310. In my opinion, he's a first round pick. He's as pro ready as they come. I've just said the only person I know is Andrew Luck, but as in when it comes to offensive linemen, he's just ready to go in, plug and play for 8 to 10 years. He's super intelligent, as you need to be in the center. You're the QB of the offensive line. You need to call out protections. You need to make sure everyone's lined up correctly. Everyone knows what they're doing. And he's got that in abundance. And I love Shane's comment last week as well about about him being a former wrestler, because you can see that, like, he's got great hands. His hand flipping is fantastic. Like, he knows how to use his body to. He might not be, like the strongest guy, although he is very strong, but he's very good at using his body to move other people out of the way. Like, his hands are fantastic. He's got that. He's got fantastic technique. He's very good at pass protection, but he's even better in the run. He just absolutely finishes people as well. When he sort of like gets his hands on you and he's going forward, he like pitch you into the dirt. He's got that like nasty streak that you get when you step over that line. When the people say, "Oh, I step over that white chalk and I become a different player." He really does. You can see the real nastiness in him. But then when you hear his press conferences and stuff like that, he's so polite and so nice. His pad level is so good as well. He really gets into the defensive tackles, like pads right up into their chest pads. You can see their pads lifting off their shoulders and moving around. People knocked him for being 24 years of age, right? Being a 24-year-old rookie, and like sometimes that is a knock, maybe for a wide receiver or a cornerback stuff. But when it comes to offensive line, I think it's good. I think I want my offensive line to be a bit older, a bit more mature. Have sort of like snaps under their belt. He might not be an absolute beast of an athlete, but I think he's definitely athletic enough to play in the league. And you can see that with some of the pulls and stuff. And yeah, I was so happy with this pick. I've given it an A+, obviously, because if we took him in the first round of 25, I would have been happy, not excited, but I would have been like, that's a huge haul. And there's one thing like I want to say as well. I believe we've got two bookend tackles. So I believe we've got, Andrew Thomas on the left side has proven that he is legit. Evan Neal has all the traits and all the ability, and I think it will click for him this year. So if you can get your bookend tackles with like a very, very, very good, all right, maybe not proper high levels in multiple Pro Bowls or stuff like that, but if you get a really, really high level center as well, you can kind of fit the guards in around them, and I think, he's the type of player that comes in and makes our offensive line better this year. But also, I believe the offensive line will continue to grow. And now we've got him on a contract now with Daniel Jones for the next sort of like 4 years. So they can work together and gel together. How crucial the partnership between a center and a QB is. So I absolutely love this pick. It was a massive need. I cannot believe he was there. I heard somewhere that we were actually thinking about moving up to get him. And when Joe Tippett went off the board, I thought, oh God, there's going to be a run on centers here. But luckily we stayed pat, and he fell to us at 57, which was just a bit of luck, but also great fortune.
Yeah, and you rightly said, obviously that hole that we had at center, obviously, and now Nick Gates went to Washington. We thought he was the next sort of guy to be in that role for the foreseeable future. The fact that obviously we've kind of taken the piss with him a little bit and only offered him a minimum salary when Washington are paying him a decent chunk of money. We were in the market for a new centre, and you just got to look back to the 07 team, the offensive line we had in that year. The likes of the tackles, Dave Deal, Kareem McKenzie, bookend tackles either side, and then Soybert, Snee, and O'Hara in the middle. That's what we're aiming towards. Aiming towards that absolutely solid line where nothing gets past, and it allows the quarterback time to make the plays like it did with Eli Manning. Yeah, granted, obviously in the Super Bowl, it almost went south with with Eli avoiding the sack, but we're looking towards that, building that line, and I think we've got three fantastic pieces in the two tackles in Neal and Andrew Thomas, and now in JMS as well. I think he's a great pickup. I really do.
Yeah, we've got Andrew Thomas. Sorry, Craig, I keep putting in. Sorry, mate. I think it's something I've got to say. But when I think Andrew Thomas is on a team-friendly deal for 2 years, Evan Neal's potentially on a team-friendly deal for 4 years, and you've got Michael Schmidt's on a team-friendly deal for 4 years as well, all in the time frame where Daniel Jones is on his contract. So I just think it just marries up really well.
I just wanted to go back on something that I said previously, just as we were wrapping up with the Deonte Banks thing, where JMS has a nuance to his game that isn't seen very much in the pros with his dead ball snap. I just wanted to see if you could shed some light on that, and we think that he's gonna change that.
I think, like he has quite said, it all depends on Daniel Jones and what Daniel Jones' preference is. Now, the dead ball snap is more for shotgun, because it doesn't come out as a tight spiral as such. Whereas when you do the more cleaner snap, it will sort of come out in the spiral. And if you're under center, probably the more natural snap might be better. But I don't believe either makes a difference. It just is a case of what your preference is, and I think he can do both. It wouldn't surprise me if he kept it. If Daniel Jones was like, "Look, we just want to keep you happy, keep you comfortable. You're the rookie coming in." But they've got like the rest of this offseason now to try and work that, and I think that'll be worked out within a day or two at the beginning of OTAs, and then they'll just go through it and rep.
Yeah, and obviously for those that don't know, obviously the difference is his snap in the gun at the moment is currently like it's end over end. So like you would sort of see, I mean, yeah, the ball's going end rather than in the spiral. The ball is end over end. Obviously, when the QB's under center, it's a bit different because it's just pretty much handed it underneath his that area. But yeah, obviously, the done thing in the league is to snap the ball, and it gives that nice tight spiral to the quarterback. It gives them, the more of a, not really more of a chance to catch it, but it's how they like it. It's the done thing, isn't it? So there's nothing necessarily wrong about the way he does it, and the fact that he's, like you said, he's flexible. He's happy to go work with Dan Jones and see which he prefers, and he's just as comfortable snapping the ball in differently in the spiral than he is at the dead ball. So I don't think it'll make much difference, but it's quite cool. I think it's nice to be a little bit different, sometimes.
Well, he was one of the players that used the COVID year, used the extra year of eligibility to stay on and refine his game. And he had his quarterback there, Tanner Morgan, was there for pretty much the same length of time with him as well. So he had all that time with him. So again, it'll just be a case of like whatever Daniel Jones prefers. He will just adapt, and it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, but A+ for JMS, happy with that, man, because he's home run pick, and like you said, he could have easily gone in the first. So great pick. All right, round 3, pick 73. This is another one, isn't it, really? Jalen Hyatt, receiver out of Tennessee. I mean, we spoke at length about him last week, but Kev.
Yeah, I mean, this pick, right? I was there and I saw like on my board, I just saw him staring at me, just absolutely just there like a sore thumb sticking out like. And then talk about the trade, okay? So we went from 89 down to 73, and we gave up a 4th round pick, 128. Now, to be fair, that pick should have been could have been a 4th and a 5th. Sorry, to the value to move up would have been a 4th and a 5th, and we just gave up a 4th. So I think that was great business on Joe Sheehan and Brian Dable's part. I believe Brian Dable was the one who made the phone call to or texted a phone call to Sean McVay to sort of get the ball rolling to see what where they were. But I mean, Jalen Hyatt, he's not a small receiver. He's like 6 foot and he's up to like 185. And I believe he wants to add another 5-10 pounds onto his frame before the start of the season. I mean, I had a late first, early second on him, and he was my wide receiver 5. So when I say our four wide receivers went between 20 and 23, and then we were able to get the 5th wide receiver, an explosive elite talent like this, an elite speed player of his talent at 73. I mean, it's absolutely mental. Like, it's just fantastic. But also, like, I can't remember who said it, but, when Sheehan was asked after the first round, you've moved up, you gave up a 5th and 7th, does that stop you from making a move again? And he was like, no, absolutely not. If I see value. Like last year, he traded back because he wanted more picks because he needed bodies. This year, I think they're a bit more selective. And it was like, we're going to get our guys. If we like someone, we're going to get them. So, I mean, he played what? We'll talk about stats for this one. Like, was it 12 games, 67 receptions, 1,267 yards and 15 touchdowns? Everyone's going to talk about that Alabama game. 5 touchdowns, 200 yards against Alabama. There was a really good play. There was a really good play in the red zone. His touchdown grab. He was against Brian Branch, who's a fantastic player and another player we would have been happy with at 25. It was He gave a bit of a stutter step on the slant, went in, 2 players coming on him, Branch on him, the other safety coming across. He knew he was getting smashed. He knew he was. He got that ball, secured it, took the hit, and got to 6 points. I mean, that's the type of toughness that, we want to see in our receivers. He has got that elite speed. I know he was only clocked at 4.4 but he runs faster than that. He definitely is a sub 4.4 guy, who just runs past people. He's a type of player to have in your team. He might not be number one wide receiver or a starter necessarily this year, but I think he will get enough snaps to develop this year and be able to, he'll be productive this year, but he'll be explosive next year. I think he'll be an absolute, he'll be dominant when it comes into his second year. He's one of those players that stretches the field. You have to respect his speed. You have to respect it. And then he's running deep routes or running deep crosses or stuff like that. That opens up the middle of the field massively for someone like Darren Waller or the wide receiver we got in from the Colts, Paris Campbell. That opens up all that middle. Wan'Dale Robinson, that opens up so much more space for players like that. Defenders have to respect his speed. I mean, when you see some of his nicer catches, some of his basic catches, the comebacks, the hitches, because people are off him. Like I said about Banks earlier on, sometimes he gives too much space. People give him space because they respect him. They respect his speed so much, which allows him to pick up those 5-10 yards and hitches and comebacks and stuff like that. Again, one of the big things about him is he tracks the ball so well. I don't want to say this, but Darius Slayton has speed. But one thing that he hasn't done over the course of his whole career is being really productive catching the ball and being solid pass catcher. Whereas Jalen Hyland actually tracks the ball and catches the ball really, really well. I mean, his drop percentage is under 10. I think it's 6.9%. And to put that into context, Zay Flowers had a 10.3 and Quentin Johnson had 11.8. You really want your wide receivers to have it under 10. Now, I know these are outliers and stuff like that. People can use stats to say whatever they want, but I just think he doesn't get the respect he deserves, if that makes sense. People talk about, production, pitting up these numbers, but he's doing it in the SEC. Do you mean the Southeastern Conference, one of the best conference, if not the best conference in college football? So the production against the best players are there. And I think someone said last week, was it he's Will Fuller without the injuries. I'd take that 100%. He's such a I'm so excited for this pick because I do think he can be a difference maker. And just good to go with some of the stuff that isn't great. I mean, when he runs some of his routes, they can look a little bit lazy, and he can kind of look like at the stem. You kind of know what he's doing. It looks like well, that's going to be a post, or that's going to be a corner. You kind of see it sort of because he's kind of lazy in it. He bends some of them a little bit, instead of actually getting in and out really quickly. But that can be taught. That can be teached up and stuff like that. And some people say as well about the right tree. He hasn't run all the full right tree. People have to remember, it doesn't mean he can't do it. It just means he wasn't asked to do it in college. Do you know what I mean? So one of those things. And what was Brian Dable had a fantastic quote, was it last year? We will work to the players' strengths. We won't ask them to do what they can't. We'll bring them in, coach them, see what they do well, and then work to their strengths. Okay, there was a lot of motion in college to get him free releases, so he's not on press man. All right, I can see Dable doing that for him as well. I can see Dable standing him behind Isaiah Hodgins. Hodgins, big receiver, stands out there. Get him behind, a little bit of a sneaky shift, and then get him out in space. I mean, Brian Dable must be, and Kafka must be salivating over this sort of prospect, what we can do for him, what we can do with him. So it's just an absolute home run pick again for me. You told me you're going to come out with these three players in the top 3 rounds. That's a home run draft in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we all said at the end of day 2, it really couldn't have gone any better for us over those first 2 days. Those 3 picks, all 3 of them could have easily gone in the first round, and the fact that we got 2 of them on day 2 is unreal. And the more I look at Jalen Hyatt, and the more I see of him, and the more he impresses me, the more I think this could be one of the absolute steals of the whole draft. It really could be. To pick him up at 73 when he was a round 1 talent is, you can't ask so much more than that. Yeah, every rookie's got their downsides, but his pros outweigh his cons so much, because those cons, like you said, can be taught, can be coached. So absolute steal.
Yeah, and he's we've seen his interviews as well. have you seen his interviews as well? Like, he's on point. He knows what he is. He knows exactly how to talk to the media, like stuff like that. There's none of this flashiness. Look at me. You know, he's all business. And you know, I mean, that's a trend with our draft picks. Have you noticed last year and this year? And you know, I'm here for that.
There's a very interesting thing when you look at prospects, when you see what analysts think, and then you see what coaches and scouts and you know, backroom staff think, and then there's that other side of things. And it's one of the reasons actually that during sort of pre-draft, I really liked watching Steve Smith Senior's Twitter, where he would go through different players and kind of give them a rundown. And the reason I bring this up is that Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco, have you seen what he put on Twitter?
Character. No.
You see what you put on Twitter? So PFF put a thing up saying which receiving room improved the most this season, and it had Chargers, Colts, Vikings, Seahawks, Ravens, and us. And Ocho Cinco, he retweeted it and said, "Giants have Jalen. No disrespect to other prospects, but you'll understand my sentiments this season."
Wow.
That speaks volumes when you've got someone of his caliber. I mean, he was something else.
He was one of the leading receivers in the league at his time, you know, during his time. And, you know, the fact that he renamed himself after his number just because he could, I mean, why not? But
he doesn't seem like the player, the type of person and personality now to throw out praise like that, because I haven't really heard him talk about other prospects.
So yeah,
he's kind of kept himself to himself since he retired, hasn't he? Like you don't really sort of see much from him, but you know, that's
he just signs things, doesn't he? He loves a signing.
Yeah, but that's huge praise though. Like the fact that, you know, one of the top receivers in the league over the last sort of 20 years has come out and said that about, you know, the improvement just one player brings to our receiving core is massive. So, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing Jalen Hyatt catching passes from Dan Jones this year. Put it that way. Alrighty then. So day 3, we obviously gave up our 4th round pick to move up to 73. So we then had pick 172 in round 5, and Eric Gray, Oklahoma running back. Kev, what do you make of Eric Gray?
Yeah, I mean, like, again, this pick just matches like need and value. I mean, we were always going to pick up another running back, like a backup, so to speak, because like we can't rely on Saquon Barkley. You know, when I say we can't rely on him, I mean like we shouldn't expect him to have 20 carries a game for a 17-game season. We shouldn't. That's wrong on us. That's wrong on us. It's up to us to bring in other backs in to take the burden off him. And whereas Breida is a good back in my opinion, he's a little bit of a one-trick pony, right? He's a little bit of a speedster. He needs space to get yards. Whereas what I love about Gray, I mean, like, you know, again, I'll just throw out some stats quickly. You know, 12 games last year, 213 attempts, 1,366 yards, averaging a 6.4 yards average, 11 touchdowns. I mean, he spent 2 years at Tennessee, spent 2 years in Oklahoma. He's going to have a little bit of tread on the tires, but we're not expecting him to be a star first running back one. Do you know what I mean? He's coming in my opinion, to be RB2 and give Saquon that breather that he needs, you know, take some carries off him. But I think, you know, what I like about him as well is like he's very good at making the first man miss. Like his change of direction is phenomenal. You know, he hasn't got the long speed. He hasn't got the elite speed. You know, he won't run away. He will likely be caught, you know, in open field by a defender. But if you see him, just when he sort of like he follows his blockers, and when like the guards are pulled and stuff like that, he reads the guards so well. And whatever way the linebacker moves, he just puts his foot in the ground and goes the other way. Now he will turn like a loss, 1 or 2 yard loss into a 2-3 yard gain. He will take a 2-3 yard gain into like a 5-6 yard gain, giving you much more manageable down and distances. I mean, and also he's a 3-down back. He was very good at the pass catching on the backfield. He had 33 receptions for 230 yards. He's like I said, he's got good burst. He can sort of like move quickly in small areas. You know, he hasn't got that decent long speed either. He's one of those players, like, he's not flashy. You know, he's not. That's probably why he sort of fell to the 5th round. But he's just one of those players that would come in, and I actually think he has the potential, or he has the traits and stuff to be a starting running back in this league. So to get someone like that at this part of the draft, I think is a very, very solid pick. And I'm kind of really excited to see sort of like him get more carries, get carries in the preseason, but get like carries in regular season as well. Because I don't think, although Barkley is elite, I don't think the drop off would be as steep as it would be with another running back. Oh, you're on mute, Dan.
Yes, I'm on mute, Kev. You look at historical picks in the 5th round, and you look at some of the names. I mean, currently in the league at the moment, Tyreek Hill was a 5th round draft pick. Josh Norman, Rodney Harrison, Stephon Diggs, Richard Sherman. They're all 5th round draft picks. Jordan Howard as well. Obviously, Jordan Howard, obviously, the Bears ex-Bears running back. He was drafted in the 5th round 6-7 years ago. So, and he was a really, really good, solid running back for the Bears. So, just because he was picked in the 5th round doesn't mean he's not got the qualities to make it in this league. And he absolutely possesses those number one running back qualities. It's just he needs a little bit more work and a little bit more development. So, again, really another home run pick, to be fair. And to get him in the 5th round is great.
Well, it is. I was just on that, Dan, as well. I was just looking there to see where I had him in my board. And I had him as a late third round pick, is where I would have been happy taking him in the late 3rd. So to get him in the 5th, I think is phenomenal. And we're not asking him to be a starting running back. I think if he went somewhere else and was asked to be a starting running back, might sort of hamper his development. But I think he's perfect. And you need more than one back in this league. You know, having an elite back is fantastic and pitch in a really good position. But to have a good back as well to take some of the big hits and some of the carries off Saquon, I think is just so smart. And again, it's just a pick that you look at and you go, fair play. I understand exactly why you took that pick.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, it takes the workload off Saquon, and who better to learn from really than one of the best backs in the league? You know, happy days. All right, then round 6, pick 209, Trey Hawkins, not 1, not 2, but 3. Defensive back, cornerback from Old Dominion, which was a college before last week I'd never heard of. So tell us about Trey Hawkins and a little bit about Old Dominion, because why not?
Well, we did. Was Dave Gettleman picked in the 3rd round a pass rusher from Old Dominion a few years ago, who we've just recently re-signed again. So another Dave Gettleman signing that has made another Dave Gettleman signing that has signed another contract after his rookie deal.
Cool. All right. So yeah, Trey Hawkins. What do you make of Trey Hawkins in the 6th round?
So Trey Hawkins, right? I hadn't actually looked at him. I hadn't read up anything on him. I hadn't watched any highlights or any film on him at all. He only came to light to me the week before the draft and stuff because of the top 30 visit. Because he was on the list of the top 30. I was like, Trey Hawkins the 3rd. He's not on anyone's list of the Beast or CBS's lists and stuff like that, or the Draft Network. So I was kind of wondering, well, what are we missing here? Do you know what I mean? But if you look at traits, and I've put here traits, because he is 6'3", 185, 190 pounds. He is a big boy. Just then watching some of his film after drafting him, you can see that he's good in man coverage. He's got elite height, size, speed, and he's very, very physical. When you see him get beat, he's very good at recovering. So we're talking about Banks as well. He's got the elite speed to be able to, if he sort of guesses wrong on the right and the wide receiver goes past him, he's able to make up the distance between them and get back in phase. And Trey Hawkins has has those characteristics as well. And one thing as well, he's a fantastic tackler. He actually comes up and when you see it, he lays the boom. He really gets his pads behind it and absolutely hits people. I mean, he had to get 2 forced fumbles this year and 3 fumble recoveries. He's just, you can definitely see why Wink picked him. He's one of these players that he's just a mold of clay. You can see the coach is going, right, he's got all the traits we want. He's shown production on film. All right, it was against lesser conferences and stuff like that. But he's definitely someone who I think, with the right coaching, could develop into not just a backup cornerback in this league. I think he could even, with time development, turn into a starter in this league. Some of the things like, that the question marks about him is some of his decision makings. He can look a little lost at times, as in like he doesn't quite know what the play is, or he doesn't quite know what his receiver's doing, and like kind of leaves them open. And I'm hoping that's not a flaw. I'm hoping that's something that can be coached up. He can learn, to recognize better and stuff like that. Which is probably why he didn't go a bit earlier. You'll see that he came in for a top 30 visits, but he also had a top 30 visit with the Colts. And the Colts had 3 picks between our round 6 pick at 209 and our round 7 pick. So I think the Giants really wanted him and didn't want to risk waiting until the 7th round, so decided to pull the trigger on him in the 6th round and pick him up. And again, when you get to this sort of stage of the draft, these are developmental players, projects, or people who have traits who maybe weren't in the best situation, and basically you want to get your hands on them and develop them into your style of player.
Yeah, they're going to be the sort of type of players that aren't necessarily either the biggest of colleges or haven't made the biggest sort of splash in the college game, but are still good enough to potentially make it in the pros. They just need a bit more work. So, yeah, I mean, I like the pick. I think it's a good pick, and I think it gives us a little bit more depth in that defensive backfield that we need, and it gives us another project to work on. And we've got enough. We've got plenty of projects that we're working on at the moment with different players. So I'll be interested to see where he fits in the 2023 roster. So
I think it was mentioned last week as well. I think you could see him cross training at cornerback and safety.
Yeah. I think I'm looking forward to seeing where he fits in this roster. That's for sure. All right, then. So 2 picks in round 7, 243 and 254. Jordan Riley, defensive tackle out of Oregon, and then Javarius Owens, safety out of Houston. So talk us through those 2 picks, Kev. What did you make of them?
Yeah, so again, Jordan Riley is one of those players that I hadn't watched, right? He's an older player at 24, but again, he's got size. He's 6'5", 325, 330 pounds. He's just a big man. And I think, like I read somewhere afterwards, that he has the type of measurables that Wink Martindale looks for. Like when he sort of goes, right, I want my nose tackles, my big boys to sort of tick these boxes. I think he kind of ticks those boxes. You see, he's one of the big guys. He clogs up holes. You won't see him make tackles for loss. You won't see him make sacks. You won't see him like I said, offer anything in the pass rush. But he's one of those players that just basically clogs up some holes and lets the players around him make the plays. And some of the things you're watching with him as well is he's got quite good punch. He gets his hand straight into the offensive lineman's chest. He's really good at initial contact. But as soon as he gets double teamed, he does get moved around quite easily. So again, he's one of those players that I think is a run stuffer, not really a pass rusher. He won't be sort of amazing. He won't sort of I don't think he'll be like a really productive player. But I think he might challenge someone like Davison, who we picked up late last year. Might challenge him for something on the 53. Or personally, I think he will be a practice squad guy and look to develop a bit more. Keep him on his rookie contract for 4 years to give you that sort of bit of depth at the nose tackle that we need.
Cool. And then Javarius Owens, 254.
See, I love this pick. I really like Javarius Owens. I had a 5th round grade on him, and to get him the 7th round at 254, I think is fantastic. For him dropping. But players do drop. They drop all the time when he gets to the later part of the draft. Some players go undrafted that should have gone earlier, and some players you never heard of get drafted. I think he's got that versatility to be able to play free safety or strong safety. He's very good at reading the quarterback, reading sort of the quarterback's eyes when he sort of teleposts where he's going to go with the ball. And he rotates his hips really well. He's very good at changing direction. He's not the fastest, and he needs to work on his anticipation a little bit. But he's one of those players. It's 6 foot, 200 pounds. He runs really well with tight ends. See him sort of follow tight ends across the field. He keeps up with them. Stays in phase. And one of the things I liked about him as well, the screen game. He reads screens really, really well. When he sees a screen pass, he just goes. He absolutely goes, and he blows up a lot of screens. So it was really good to see on tape. But one thing about him is his missed tackles. He does miss quite a few tackles. Sometimes he goes for the big hit, sort of the highlight play, when really he should just wrap up. Like you love his aggressiveness, but being over aggressive can sort of be his detriment. And like I said, he's not very fast, he's not very rangy, but he does sort of like read the game quite well. And we need another box safety. I think he can play in the box and free safety, but I do see him sort of being close to the line of scrimmage. He does need to work on his tackling and get wrapped up. We did release Burgess this week as well, one of the other sort of box safeties, to make room for the undrafted free agents. So I can see him making the team as a fourth safety, and especially on special teams. He played all phases of special teams, so he's got that bow, string to his bow. So I really like this pick.
Yeah, I think what people got to remember is you can't really expect too much out of a 7th round draft pick. And you every once in a while you'll see one that you will sort of make a bit more of a splash and will end up becoming a starter or close to a starter. So yeah, there's little expectations for these two guys, but it'll be it's good depth to have, and like if anything, special teams, there's always room for people on special teams, So all in all, I think our draft this year was very, very good, and in shame we trust, as we keep saying. In shame we trust.
So do you want?
All right,
do you want to give an overall then, Kev? Do you want to give us your thoughts as a class rather than individually?
Yeah. So as a class, I've given it an A. I think this class is. You can't hit every hole. You can't hit every hole on your roster, and we showed that by not drafting an edge rusher or not drafting a linebacker. But I think in this draft, especially early, needs met value, and we picked up really, really good players at really, really good value spots. And again, I think every pick you look at, and you can kind of say Joe Sheehan and Brian Dable, yeah, I like that pick. I see where you're going. It makes sense, and that hasn't always been the case in the past.
Look at the two of them in there amongst those rookies. Don't they look good, say? So we touched on the some of the undrafted guys last week. We just wanted to get your thoughts on them. Who stood out for you in the undrafted guys that we picked up?
Yeah, so I'll start with Tommy DeVito, the quarterback. I think he's 6'2", 210. He's actually from New Jersey. Went to Don Bosco High School. Bit of a high school superstar. They're a part of high school football. I think he's got decent ball placement. He's good timing and accuracy. He's very good at extended plays with his feet. He's actually sometimes he's better at throwing on the run than he is throwing in the pocket. His passes aren't accurate though. If he's being rushed and his feet aren't set, he needs to sort of like drop back, have time, and throw the ball. Then he's decent. But if he's rushed at all, his accuracy drops massively. I think we are looking for a long-term backup. So I'm interested to see, he will, I think, be in the practice squad this year. See time develop. We've got Tyrod Taylor on quite a big contract. It would be handy to get a backup quarterback going forward on a relatively cheap deal.
Yeah, and two very experienced quarterbacks to learn under. So he's the world's his oyster, and he can learn under those two and develop himself into a much better player.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right. Who else stood out for you?
Yeah, so again on the offense, we can't. You boys mentioned last week, and Bryce Ford Wheaton, 6'3", 225 pounds. I had a 6th round grade on him. He was my wide receiver 30. I thought, he had elite traits. He's fast. He came in for a top 30 visit as well. So it was kind of interested to see why, he wasn't picked in the 7th round. He makes some really, really tough catches, which is fantastic. But then he drops some really, really easy balls. So that must come down to concentration drops. And I think concentration drops should be able to wean them out. You should be able to coach that out of a player. But I think he's a good blocker as well. You see him on the edge, and he really sort of gives it everything. I think Craig said last week you saw him driving a fella 30 yards down the field on one of the blocks. So he brings that to his game. He's very good at special teams. He's played all the special teams. On punt return, kickoff return. One thing I will say about him, his speed is fast. His long speed is fast. I think he was 4th in the class at the combine. but his 10-yard split was only like 24th in the class. So, it's interesting. Is he just a deep ball sort of specialist? But again, he needs to be quicker in his routes. His drop percentage now was 11.2, which was a little like higher than you want. And these are the reasons why he goes undrafted. But I do think he's that type of player. Sheen said last week we gave him a massive, in relative terms, a massive undrafted free agent sort of like money. So I think he has a chance to push for the 53 actually.
I genuinely do as well. And I mean, I put a article in, was it an article? No, it was a YouTube video in the group chat earlier this week. I was just scrolling on YouTube the other night and it come up and I thought, let me have a watch. Some of his contested catches are unbelievable. And like I said, his blocking is pretty damn good. It's just like you said, it comes down to some of the easier passes he should be catching. He drops them. And that's something that can be coached. That's something that his concentration levels, it can be sort of drummed into him. And I genuinely think he could make the 53. Chances are it's probably going to be as a special teamer at first. But as, no doubt we go through the season and injuries will start to play a part, we could see Bryce Hall-Wheaton lining up as a receiver in some games, and I'm really excited about this pickup. I think he could potentially be an absolute steal.
Yeah, definitely, and he had interest. He had a few teams ring him, like the Seahawks rang him, the Steelers rang him to try and get him on the practice, try and get him on the undrafted free agent. And decided to come to us, and we are crying out for another big-bodied receiver with Isaiah Hodgins, but who can run down the field and stretch the field.
Yeah, exactly, and he could potentially do that. He just needs to be developed and coached. Was there anyone else that stood out for you?
Yeah, so I've got two players on defense as well. Yeah, I've got two players on defense as well. Cool. Habakkuk Baldonado. I'm not very good with names.
Baldonado.
He's a player who's got great size for the position. He's 6'5", 260 pounds. Again, he's one of those players I had like a draftable grade on him. I thought he'd go like in the 7th round or some stage. As you said as well, he's from Rome. He moved over here. He only started playing football at 16, 17, moved over here in high school. So I think he's untapped. He's got a long way to go. But what he's shown already, I think he definitely was worthy of a draftable grade. I think he pursues well. I think he's got great athleticism and power. He's quick off the edge, but not always. So he can show real burst and quickness, and he can show like he's really slow off the line. So, I think that's something, the coaches need to get their hands on him and, sort of coach into him a bit. He's got a high motor. At the moment he's better against the run. He sets the edge really well, but he does have upside as a pass rusher. He's still very, very raw, as I've said. And he just needs a bit more consistency. So he's got sort of like ball of clay, and I think Wink and the outside linebackers coaches would love to work with him. And then Deontay Johnson, I really like this pick actually, because I think he's a really, really good line drafter. He's a linebacker. Sorry, I didn't watch a whole lot of tape beforehand, but I've watched a fair bit on him since then. He's like a smart, true inside linebacker. He was like really productive. I think last season he had in 14 games he had 3 sacks, 3 pass breakups, a forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, 109 tackles and 8 tackles for loss. He's a smart player as well. He's one of those players that he did actually mechanical engineering major. So he didn't go for like the usual sort of like jock, sort of like easy majors at university. He actually tested himself, and he was very, very productive on the field as well. He's good at diagnosing plays. He's a good tackler. He's actually sneaky good in coverage as well. When he drops back, he is good in coverage. He hasn't got the speed and athleticism that maybe someone like an Okereke has, but I think he could be, sort of like the complement to a linebacker like that. And the linebackers coaches actually went and visited him after his pro day. So there was obviously interest there as well. And just quickly on these two defensive players, they've got a great chance to sort of really go out there and prove something. Because if you look at our current linebacker depth and our edge depth, outside linebacker depth, I mean, there's spots there to be taken. I mean, you look at our linebackers, someone like Carter Coughlin and Brown, are just special teams guys. They never see the field in actual like defensive plays. So spots are there for the taking. So I'm really interested to see this offseason where these rookies sort of stack up and who can make a name for themselves.
Yeah, I think it's the second off season under Shane and Dave's, and we're building a team. We're building a very, very well-rounded team, and I think adding some of these little depth pieces like the Deontay Johnson. Yeah, he's not going to set the world on fire. He's not going to be our linebacker one, but adding that additional depth in there in a position where we need that depth and the level of talent this guy has, level of potential this guy has, it's a good sign. And it's a great sign that they're building a really, really strong team. And I mean, I saw earlier, I posted in the group chat earlier the PFF grade that they gave. Well, let me find it. So post NFL draft, post NFL power rankings in the NFC. Well, they've graded the Giants at number 4 overall in the NFC after the draft in their power rankings. Eagles, Niners, and Cowboys 1, 2, 3. After that, it's the Giants. It's huge. I mean, obviously that's PFF, and not everyone appreciates PFF or takes what they say at all seriously. But to get a grade like that post draft from a pretty reputable source it's not to be shrugged at, and it's a great sign that we're moving in the right direction.
Peter King, I think it was Peter King, did a power rankings as well across the entirety of the NFL. The Giants were 11th, and I cannot remember the last time pre-season the Giants were 11th, probably not even in the top 20. So it shows that there's a lot of belief around this team. I was just reading a tweet from Carl Banks who said, something along the lines of, we're not rebuilding. Last season was rebuilding. We could be the real deal this year. We could be, an outside contender. And I think that is a general consensus now. That isn't just one or two people who potentially might have homer picks because they're close to the Giants. That's a general consensus now, is that we are ones potentially to watch.
And the thing is, as well, going back to the draft class a little bit, I haven't seen anyone in all media and outlets and stuff like that who have said we've had a bad draft. Everyone universally, right? And I understand that you can't judge a draft class yet because you're not in the field. But if everyone thinks that you're on the right track and you're doing the right things, and everyone seems to think that that Joe Sheehan and Brian Dable are doing the right things behind the scenes and on the practice field and on the field last season and going forward. I'd rather be there than the alternative.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think, like you said, Craig, the consensus across everywhere is that we have had a very successful draft, so on paper, and we are moving absolutely in the right direction. We're not rebuilding necessarily now. We are building for the future, and we are in the middle of that sort of build as such. The rebuild was last year. We got in a decent position last week. We got to playoffs at the end of the last year. Rebuild's done and dusted. We're now looking towards year 2 under Shane and Dave's. Let's improve on divisional round of the playoffs. Let's get to the championship game of the playoffs. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's going to get into the championship game. Yes, it would suck to lose in the championship game. Don't get me wrong, but it would be improvement on last year. Even if we get into the playoffs, I wouldn't sniff at that this season. In year 2 of a new regime, I wouldn't say no to that at all, because it just shows the position we're in now compared to 2 years ago. It's night and day. It really is. The difference is outstanding.
And the thing is, we don't have to do as well as last year, statistically getting as far as we did. But we just want to show that we are growing and getting better as a football team.
It's a harder schedule this year as well.
I just remember one nugget. Sorry, just quickly. I just remember one nugget about Habakkuk Baldonado. When I watched an interview with him last week, and he said his mum sort of congratulated him on finishing college and going towards the NFL. And she said to him, like in Italian, but he obviously translated it, basically said, like, congratulations, you've won the bike. Now you've got to pedal it. And I just sort of like love that quote.
Love that.
Like, you know, like, it's just like so simple, but
That's
so
great,
like, yeah, it's just like, it makes so much sense. You get nowhere if you don't start pedaling this bike. You know?
Yeah, it's very true. Now the hard work comes in. You know, you've got what you got what you need. Now the work comes in. So yeah, we're I mean, the fact that we're no longer looked at as a bit of a laughing stock. The fact that people are sort of taking the team seriously and the franchise seriously. I mean, you look back 5-6 years ago, and it was just like, oh, the Giants. Now it's like, oh, the Giants. Oh, okay. And the moves we're making under Joe Shane, every move we've made so far this offseason, have either of you questioned any one of the moves they've made, whether it's releasing a player or whether it's picking up a player during free agency? Nobody's questioned the decision he's made because that trust is fully there, and he's proved that he can make those decisions. And yeah, in Shane we trust. You know, it's a really exciting future for the team, and I think, you know, we're only in year 2 of this project, and I'm so looking forward to the future. I've had enough of. Carry on. What were you gonna say?
I was just saying, like, it makes these podcasts more enjoyable. I mean, like, imagine like trying to do these podcasts week on week when your team's sort of in the doldrums.
I mean, you think like year 1 of the podcast, like how often we were like, oh, Dave Gettleman, bloody Dave Gettleman, bloody, and Joe Judge, oh, Joe Judge. But look how
two things changed. Joe Sheehan and Craig, the producer, came on. Those are the 2 things that happened.
There we go.
I'll take that.
You know, yeah, man. But no, I'm fed up of having losing seasons and being a laughing stock of the league and being a laughing stock of the NFC East. And it's our time now. It's our time to prove the Giants are back in town and the Giants are on the map, and you know, the future's looking bright. Anyway, there you have it. Kev's deep dive of our 2023 draft class. So thanks for that, mate. Really appreciate it. And let us know your thoughts, listeners and viewers. Let us know what you think of Kev's opinions, whether you agree with him, whether you don't. Let us know what you think. Unfortunately, that is all we've got time for this week. We will be back next week, same time, same place, 8:30 Wednesday evening, where we will be joined by another top-notch guest. Making his Big Blue UK and Ireland debut is New York Revival contributor, viral sensation, and also friend of the pod, Mr. El Jefe, is joining us next week. He'll be joining us to go through the 2023 schedule, which is dropped tomorrow. And as we sort of try to start to predict how the season is going to look for us, we'll also be getting his thoughts on the last year, so on 2022. And be getting his thoughts on the off-season so far and also the draft class as well. So make sure you tune in next week for that one. Anything else to add before we go, guys?
No, just like, it was so good to get on with you this week, lads. Had an absolute mare at work today. It was so busy, stressed out, and I've been able to come back now and do this with you boys. It's been a blessing.
Yeah, as always, it's picked my day up. It's it could be the drugs talking. You know, you never know. There's a couple of things I just wanted to quickly mention. First of all, we have a very, very interesting 50-50 split between YouTube and audio only. So thank you to everyone who's jumped across to YouTube with us. We really appreciate it. We also really appreciate that we still have a very big following on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and other podcast platforms. And I hope that we do a good job of being able to portray everything that we have on video to those audio people. And it'd be great to get feedback. So send us a DM or an email. Dan will go through all of those in a second, I'm sure. The second thing was that we put a poll out last week asking about the preference for week 1 of the season. And we said about playing the Eagles or the Cowboys or the Bills or the MetLife Bowl against the Jets. The Jets game won with a 73% total on 150 votes. Hilariously, it's now come out that the rumor is that it will be against the Cowboys, who was the lowest voted for of the 4 options. So I'm not sure how that goes. We did have a few people comment as well. Nat Turner said it would be cool to see Jets Giants on 9/11. The Eagles are a divisional rival, as are the Cowboys, and rumoured to be the best in the NFC, so it's a nice early test for ourselves. There are a lot of people who were just saying Rodgers to be humbled in the home opener was Graham O'Hare. Darren Cook, who listens quite often, he put Jets a bit of an easier start and a chance to ruin Rodgers' start. I think a lot of people were just really interested in us getting one over on Aaron Rodgers again.
Again, yeah. No, I mean, I'd love the Jets to start off week 1, but it's looking likely it's going to be Cowboys, isn't it? Again.
I was just saying,
I was
just gonna say, like, it's one of those things where obviously little brother has got a shiny new toy now, and they want to go out and play with it and stuff, and you just got to show him who's the bigger brother still,
That's it. Show him he's not the only sheriff in town anymore. Dan Jones is around, and he's good.
There is one other thing that a lot of people have been talking about, and I just want to get your opinions before we go. I know this is completely off the cuff, but Christmas Day, Eagles Giants, we've already spoken about it, yeah? What do you think of this prospect that people are saying that the Eagles should wear their green jerseys and the Giants should go red?
Yes, please bring back the red.
Let's do it. Mate, I love the red jerseys. I think they're so sweet.
Weren't they like mid noughties or something, or like late noughties, those like red jerseys? I
mean, sort of.
I hate to say it, so I'm going to say it very low. But those Kelly green jerseys are actually quite nice. It's a lovely colour, that Kelly green jersey, to be fair.
No.
The colour is nice, I will say, not the jersey.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the colour is nice, admittedly. But yeah, that'd be cool. Red and green on Christmas Day.
I haven't thought about those red jerseys in so long. I wanted one for ages. They're so hard to find.
Mate, I've got one. It's in my jersey collection somewhere. I think it was a Amani Tuma red jersey. Nice. That's how long ago it was.
Nice.
But it's somewhere in my collection. But yeah, I love the red. I think I only remember seeing us wear it a couple of times. I think it was like once we wore it like once a season or something like that. But yeah, I love the reds. I think that would look class on Christmas Day.
Since we're talking about jerseys as well,
a little Santa symbol.
Since we're talking about jerseys as well, can I just say a massive boo to NFL Shop and Fanatics for not letting us be able to purchase a jersey with Sexy Dexy on the back?
Rubbish.
Can I please? Because I was heartbroken when I tried to order that this week.
Absolute rubbish. And the fact the custom jerseys, you can only put 10 characters on there as well. If your surname is 11 letters long, you can't get a custom jersey with your surname on the back. How harsh is that? Yeah, sort it out, Fanatics. Come on, make it happen. We want a Sexy Dexy jersey each, don't we? But there we go. Unfortunately, I won't be on next week due to work. So I'm a bit gutted about that because I was looking forward to speaking to El Jefe, but no doubt he'll be back on at some point later in the year. But producer Craig will be taking the host seat yet again. So it's in your very capable hands. Hand.
Yep.
Yeah. Hand. Plus sling. So I mean, you'll have to be doing things one-handed next week, but I'm sure you'll be more than capable, and I'm sure you'll step up to the task, no problem whatsoever. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel and to hit that bell to get the latest notifications and updates. Also, feel free, please leave us comments on YouTube on the videos. We do actually read every single comment that's left on there, or at least Craig does, and then he then sends them to us and lets us know the feedback we're getting. Steve, isn't the red jersey meant to be cursed? I don't know. You tell us.
We'll have to look at the record. We have to look at the record for next week.
Yeah, probably like 0-10 or something. If that's the case, then no, we don't want to wear it on Christmas Day. But yeah, leave us a comment on our YouTube stream, on our YouTube videos. Leave us some feedback on Apple, on Spotify, on your podcast platform of choice. We really do appreciate the comments and the love we get from everyone. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Just search for Big Blue UK and Ireland. We are all part of the New York Giants Fans UK Facebook page, so give them guys a follow and a like too. You can also get in touch with us via email, bigblueukirl@gmail.com. Send us a DM on Insta, on Twitter, on Facebook, and we will answer every single one of them. We are also all part of the Full 10 Yards Network. Check us out on the website, full10yards.co.uk/Giants. My thanks as ever go to both of you, Kev and Craig, for joining me, and to you, the viewers and listeners, for tuning in. We are signing off until next time.